The question says from our viewer, we have been renting a property through a managing agent for 4 years. We did not renew our lease for the 5th year. We requested our deposit to be paid back with interest as per the rental agreement. The managing agent responded to us saying that our deposit was not in the bracket of earning interest. We requested the agent's bank and banker confirmed that the money has not actually earned interest. We were never notified via email or telephonic conversation that our funds would not be invested in an interest-bearing account, which our rental agreement stipulated. Is there anything we can do to claim the interest that we have lost due to the agent/landlord's failure to deposit same in an interest-bearing account? Cilna?
So if I was a judge, my answer would have been, what on earth are you talking about, agent? And I say this from a place where I hope the agents of South Africa knows exactly how much I care for them and how much I love them and how much time and effort I invest in them. So when I hear things like this, I do want to roll my eyes. Okay, so the answer is, once again, I assume that this property is a residential property. There's nothing in the question that indicates anything else. I'm working from an assumption that it's residential, meaning that the Rental Housing Act applies. Bruno set the stage beautifully on the discussion towards the change in contracting out of legislation. So it's definitely not to the benefit to not pay interest to the tenant. And at the same time, this person says that it was, in terms of the agreement, to be invested in an interest-bearing account, which is in line with the Rental Housing Act, and that's the way it should be. There's no such thing as interest brackets. That we're talking about tax, it's something it's very different. It's almost the direct opposite. Interest is in your pocket, tax brackets is out of your pocket. So there's no such thing as interest brackets, definitely not. Even if you have R2 in a bank account, it will earn interest, yes, a marginal amount, but it's still interest. And the Rental Housing Act says that the rental deposit must be invested in an interest-bearing account. So if this agent or landlord decided to invest this money into an account with so-called interest brackets, and this amount would be under the particular interest bracket, then the agent made a mistake, or the landlord made a mistake. You were not allowed to invest into that account. So 100% you are entitled to your interest, marginal as it might be. But in terms of the Rental Housing Act, you are allowed to ask for a full statement reflecting the interest and how it was earned. So my answer would be the Rental Housing Tribunal. I would suggest that you go to the tribunal with this problem. And if it was, in fact, an estate agent that did not invest this correctly, once again, I will always protect the estate agents that's acting on the right side of the law. But unfortunately, if it was the agent that made a mistake, I would report that to the PPRA, the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, because it is unprofessional conduct and it is not proper in any way, shape or form. Look at me being like a girl teacher this morning. But Bruno, you agree with me?
I do agree. It's actually quite interesting. I wanted to pose this just to see if you agreed with me. I have a number of landlords that, so some of them actually do it out of the kindness of their heart. Some of them, I'm not sure whether they're actually utilizing the funds, but instead of putting it in an individual interest-bearing account, they've got a pool of money that climbs up the interest bracket. So effectively, it's, if you have several tenants and you put their money together, you can actually get a higher interest rate by putting the money together in an individual account. The problem is, strictly speaking, it's not in an account that a statement can be recalled from specific to that tenant. And it was a very interesting conversation because no one had a specific answer, because in terms of the act and the regulations, it's expected to earn interest. So that could mean anything. As long as it's earning interest, it's okay. But because of the right of a tenant to ask for a statement, then it kind of goes against that principle. So it's interesting because there wasn't a right or wrong answer. Eventually, we just took the calculation of the interest at that bracket, prepared an Excel spreadsheet, gave it to the person, and explained to them anywhere else they'd get a lot less, so don't complain. And they were happy with it. But I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I must say I've had that from a few agencies, that question, or landlords. And the same if you look at companies that holds a Fidelity Fund certificate and you invest in their trust account, they do sometimes do this as long as you account, my opinion, and I always say, I'll say if something is my opinion and not straight from law. My opinion is as long as you can properly account which portion of interest went to which deposit. I don't interpret the act to be so specific to say you should have one statement of account per deposit, meaning that you need to invest your deposit in separate accounts. I don't read and interpret the act like that. What I do, my interpretation of the act on that one is you need to be able to show exactly on the tenant's request where the interest portion is lying for your deposit, and you should be able to link that back to the interest earned on that account. So I'm 100% with you, but I think I have a liberal yet very tenant-focused interpretation of that part of the act.
Sure.
It's my 29 cents interest.
Bruno, you said you've seen this before happen, I'm assuming, right? I mean, It sounds like a very, very admin-intensive exercise then, like we're referring for the landlord. And what advice would we give a landlord who's saying, you know what, I want to reap the best reward for my tenants or the number of tenants that I have by doing this? And then in terms of not being able to draw those individual statements, is it something that a landlord necessarily should be doing? I mean, because it seems like it comes with a lot of problems as well, potentially.
Look, I suppose it depends on the landlord and the tenant. So honestly, if it's easier to put money somewhere and an individual statement's printable from a sub bank account, then it makes life easy. And you know what? The tenant lands up, for lack of better words, getting screwed because they get a very low interest rate, but at least they get a statement. Practically speaking, I know landlords that jump through hoops for tenants. I've had to prepare schemes where the money is utilized as a deposit, but is actually refunded to the tenant for an investment where the landlord has a power of attorney to access it so that they can actually invest it in bigger schemes, like proper collective investment schemes. Because remember, the interest-bearing account typically tends to be a very safe account, so your interest rate is negligible. And some landlords that go above and beyond, and they actually get these guys to invest in stuff that could make them a lot better returns. Some stuff carries risk with it. So it's really up to the landlord. Admin intensive, yes. If you're averse to that, don't do it. If you've got a nice system that can actually have the money, do the calculation on a monthly basis, the money's pooled together, but you've got like a little whatever, like internet calculator that'll calculate it at 5%, then it's 5%. If anyone complains that they should be getting more, look around, find an account better than 5%.
100%.
Exactly, and as long as the landlord doesn't accidentally go down the road of trying to help and then doesn't help, like a 3-year-old trying to help you clean. For instance, cryptocurrency, you can't invest a rental deposit in a cryptocurrency account simply for the reason that the cryptocurrency guys, Luno and those guys, as fun as it is, Luno, I'm not saying anything bad about you. I love you guys. But Luno, for instance, all those crypto guys, they do not fall under the definition of financial institution in terms of the Banks Act. So you can't do that. And you can't take the money and go invest it in a property scheme. That's not it has to be a financial institution. Sadly, that will be limited to a bank in terms of the Bank Act.
So I wanted to quickly then ask you, in terms of advice to tenants with regard to this particular question. So you obviously, you pay your deposit over to your managing agent or to the landlord, and they of their own accord then take a decision like Bruno was referring to in terms of investing it wherever they deem fit. Is it advisable then for a tenant to actually follow up with this and find out, well, what's happening to my money?
Yes, and they are entitled to. So ask for a statement of your interest, say by month 1, to show that it was invested in with a financial institution. But then again, now I fall back again on rental agents. Tenants very often shy away from renting through a rental agent because they think the rent's going to be more expensive or whatever. It's not the case. Remember, the landlord pays the commission for the rental agent, and rental agents need fidelity fund certificates, which means their accounts get audited. So if you go for, and I don't mean to say anything funny, but if you go for an estate agent, make sure you ask for their fidelity fund certificates. They should have it on their emails, on their email addresses. In terms of the PPA, on all their correspondence, make sure you see the fidelity fund certificate so that you know that the account that you are going to invest the deposit in will in fact not just carry interest, but will also be audited. So most definitely you can ask for that, but I definitely encourage tenants to rent through estate agents. I'm not saying don't go rent directly from a landlord. There is just a lot more benefit for a tenant if the landlord makes use of a rental agent.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cilna. Thanks, Bruno.